Today on the Revo Business Battles and Industry Chats, I have the privilege of chatting with Oliver Puddock, aka Ollie, a well-known up-and-coming Kiwi founder in the functional drink space who has turned a side hustle into a full-time cranking business selling all around New Zealand as well as exporting. Right, so Ollie, for people who haven't met you before, how do you like to introduce yourself?
The founder of Innerbloom. We are a functional beverage company that specializes in protein coffee and also coffee creamer powders. We are all about making coffee work harder for you, and we like to say coffee with benefits.
A lot of people may not know you or know Innerbloom. So how did it first sort of come about? What was the sort of thing that you went, right, I'm starting this business?
I actually had the idea back in probably 2016 when I was living in the States for a little stint of travel and kind of fun. There was cold brew coffee. I used to go to this shop called Whole Foods. A lot of people are familiar with it, but there was cold brew coffee, which was a massive kind of trend back then, canned, bottled, in cartons. And when I lived in Florida, it was too hot to drink hot coffee, and so I'd grab one of those every day from the fridge. And when I moved back to New Zealand, there was nothing kind of around. Decided I wanted to start a cold brew coffee company. Worked out it was way too hard, and I put it on the back burner as I got into the fire service. And what I'd kind of done in that process was I'd started a brand, but I hadn't really proved concept or anything like that, and it was just sitting there really. And then in kind of early mid 2021. I got a little bit bored with my job and decided just to have a crack, really. How I got started, the actual lightning bulb moment was when Boss Coffee came to New Zealand and they started seeing their billboards everywhere. And I was like, okay, these guys are definitely going to create a category and it's going to become sort of a mainstream thing, hopefully. So, yeah, that's when I started to look into it, and I started making it at home, playing around with different recipes. In between shifts and work, I would make it, bottle it, brew it, and label everything. And then on the weekends, I'd sell it at the markets around Auckland. That's just kind of how it started, really.
True founder story where you're going from that sort of making it at home and now into a full-fledged business. So sort of like, how did you sort of transition it from like side hustle to full-time role like that you're in now, and then manage it, because you said then you were making it between shifts. So how did you actually manage that in with working as well, especially when it started to get bigger and bigger?
There's probably like two inflection points. The first one would be the me making it to then me not making it. So like when I was making it, you'd spend a lot of time. Basically the process was like grind the coffee, soak it, add the flavors or enhancers that you were going to brew it with, and then you would then filter that out and you'd bottle it. And that was probably a 2.5 day process all up. And then on the weekends, I would sell it. And then, so what was happening, I was selling out on the weekends I'd go to 2 markets on a Saturday, 1 on a Sunday, started selling out. And then it was kind of like a time factor of like, this is wasting a lot of my time. Yes, it's growing the business, but it's like labor intensive. It's like, to scale and to get bigger, you need basically make more time for yourself. And because I was working full time, I couldn't really do that. It's when someone told me about contract manufacturing, and I got put in touch with my current contract manufacturer that I'm still with today. And they were just starting out as well, which was kind of a nice little inflection point and starting point, because they were willing to, come to my level and do a little bit of a smaller run. And I think it cost still a lot of money, like 25 grand, I think it cost. But it was I had enough kind of saved up my own money and stuff in the business to take that leap. And it was like, what is that next leap? It was getting into stores or retail or supermarkets, having a longer shelf life. Like I remember I took the bottles to a supermarket and the guy kind of laughed me out the door because he was like, it's got 2 weeks shelf life, it's glass, it has to be refrigerated, you're dreaming, like come back when it's, a legitimate product. So that's what I did. That was the first kind of inflection point, going from me making it to then someone else making it, and then I become basically a marketing company. And then the second one is probably me quitting my job to go full time, although I was probably working 50 hours a week on the business anyway and just not paying yourself. But yeah, the second point would be the me quitting my job. So I think again, like that little like trigger in your head, it was I'm driving to a job that wasn't serving a purpose for me, and it's pulling me away from something that I'm super passionate about. And just like looking at it holistically, like if I do this, how much money do I need to survive? Like realistically, getting the support of your partner or family, having the support of people backing you is massive. Like, they get pretty sick of you telling them that it was a hard day's work when you chose to do this dream of yours. So, yeah, that was real important. But yeah, I knew I had about 8 months of saving. Obviously, we've got a mortgage, so make sure that I had enough money to pay the mortgage for those 8 months, and then that gave me enough time to basically full-fledged focus on the business. So that 8 months has now turned into 16 months. So I'm doing okay. Just
You said you're driving to work that one day, and so do you think that was that specific moment that you sort of said, actually, let's just get on and get it done?
Yeah, well, my car actually broke down on the way to work, and I was like, fuck this. I was like, if I didn't have to go to this job, which, hey, I love being a fireman, and the guys and girls that you work with are the salt of the earth kind of characters, and it's a mean environment, and really, really respect everything they do. But for me as a person, I was like, I want more. So yeah, this is not ticking those boxes at that point in time.
You're obviously thinking about getting there. So, when you mentioned there was the savings, family behind you and that. So was there a certain, when you were doing that, was there like a big fear or something that you sort of said, God, I'm going to do this, I'm going to quit the fire service? Was it like when you handed in your notice, was it just like, oh my God, here we go, this is it? Or was there any fear in that where you're just like, nah, mate, this is the right path, I'm doing it?
I don't know where it's come from, maybe my parents or something, but nothing's ever permanent. Obviously, life and death are permanent, but apart from that, like in terms of career paths and things like that, I'm like, fuck it, have a crack, see what's going to happen, and if you fail, you lick your wounds for a few months and just carry on. Like the worst I remember talking to a boss there, and he was like, you'll never quit. No one will ever pay you $100,000 to basically like firemen, spend a lot of their time waiting around for calls, going to the gym. But when it's on, it's on. And he was like, you'll never be able to earn $100,000 doing that. And I was like, $100,000 is a lot of money, mate. I want to make millions of dollars. And that was kind of like the thing. Like I want to be surrounded by like A players that are striving to be, the best in everything that they do. And so in terms of the fear thing, there was no real fear. Like nothing really changed apart from I didn't have to go to my job. I'm probably more fearful now on two things because I've taken investment. You feel, I guess, responsible for those people's money that have trusted that with you. So that's probably a more of a fear thing than when I quit.
I've actually heard people say that before. It sort of changes the dynamic when you take on funding, and you're working with like people directly as well. It makes it sort of like you are fearful of like making sure that you are protecting their investment. You're protecting your own, but it's your own, but it's that whole year protecting someone else's investment. So sort of, I guess, I was going to then ask about, building and growing Innerbloom. And I guess that sort of touched on that sort of where you're saying with investment and stuff. So what do you think is the most important things that you focused on to turn Innerbloom into from your passion project to like the real business that it is now, with your export markets, etc. Was there something that was most important things? Or what is the most important thing you focused on for that? You said it earlier, you said turning into a marketing company. Do you think that was key versus being a producer?
Unfortunately, it's the age we live in. If you're not on social media or like, if you've got a product and no one knows about it, it's fucking pointless. As much as you might have the best product in the world, if no one knows about it, then no one knows about it. So I think the best thing I ever did was pick up my phone and start talking to it and post videos online and build a community and build trust. And then what coincided with that was the launch of our kind of hero product, the protein coffee. Prior to that, we had a bunch of just pure coffee SKUs with functional benefits, but they there were two things. There's probably too much education needed for them at the time, and we were competing, line for line with Boss Coffee, who is always going to beat us on price. And at the end of the day, like, the customer, if they don't know what the benefits are that they're going to get out of your product, why would they pay more for it? The protein coffee opened up a market of sort of mainstream, I'd say. Everyone understands it. Like you say, a protein coffee, they're like, oh, now that you said it, makes sense. It's the protein in the coffee mixed together. As long as it tastes good, you're going to get repeat purchases and at a reasonable price. And that's kind of what happened. We launched that, invested massively into social media and ads online, and then straight away, like, within the 3 months, we'd sold out of the product that we made of the protein coffee. I was like, oh my God, I need more. And then it was like, okay, like, people were like, what's the next flavor? And it was like, okay, like, so I made the decision to phase out the pure coffee SKUs, turn ourselves into a protein coffee RTD company, and then also strapped in the powders online as like an extra layer of different customer, but also allows us to kind of control margin and be profitable, I guess. So yeah, those are probably the two things. Like, brand, well, probably three. Like, brand is very key. Like, someone could create an identical company to us tomorrow, but they can't recreate, like, the brand, the message, the things that we speak about, because it takes years to build trust, and it's going to have that overnight. And then obviously great product, and then fulfill that through your marketing and how you talk to the customer and how your product delivers to them, and does it taste good, and all those things.
Thrown in some real nuggets there that anyone listening to should really pay attention to, because some of those are key to it. That whole telling your brand story is just like, unreal. You do a great job with it. And you're right, it is one of those things that, yes, someone could come and replicate what you're doing, or to a degree, in regards to the product, but you're right, it's telling that story, gaining that trust, and you've done that over the years. You've sort of cranked into it. So sort of thinking about that as well, it's like, is there any assumptions that you sort of made when you first sort of started into it? Because you sort of, talked about, if no one knows your brand, but is there any assumptions sort of associated around that, or anything else in business that you made when you first started that you just like, man, that was so way off. I never, ever, I thought this was going to be my gold, and, it's not even bloody way down the back. It just never happened.
Yeah, I had someone tell me, it'll take you ages, and I was like, nah, it'll take me a couple of years, but fuck, it's taken me way longer to actually like work out what we are and what we're building towards. But I think that's also been a blessing in disguise, because I haven't had heaps of money to like burn, and I've kind of figured it out organically, really. Always told, like, you'll never be able to sell drinks online, but that's totally false. I think you can sell anything online. That's how good are you at marketing. Like, our online revenue accounts for 50% of our monthly revenue, so we've got a very strong subscription rate.
Do you think that's part of just the change now with how online is, viewed differently? I guess maybe someone making that comment sort of might have not known how, now it's like literally, there's delivery trucks constantly going everywhere. Our normal post is reduced, but delivery with couriers is just through the roof. Do you think that's probably part of it? And it's just that change in mindset with people. And I guess maybe with the COVID, that sort of stopped and everyone had to buy stuff online. Maybe that helped it, do you think? Or have thoughts around it?
The buying culture has changed. It is still hard to convince someone to spend, $60 on a 12-pack, albeit it's cheaper per unit than buying one can in a store. And I totally get that. Like, there's not many drinks that I buy online. I buy a few, but even me, who runs a drink company, I can understand where the customer's coming from, right before you buy, kind of thing. But I think, yeah, like, it's getting people through the door. Like, we have people that buy it in store and then are like, oh, they offer subscriptions, and it is cheaper per unit, and I just want it to turn up to my door and not think about it every 4 weeks, and have my 24 or 12 coffees in my fridge, grab and go when I need. Which, once you kind of see that, I think it just makes sense. It's like, why would you waste time driving to the supermarket to buy our drinks? Albeit we love selling to the supermarkets, so I don't want to like take anything away from that. Everyone's so time poor. So like, in terms of that, I think it's very much an education piece around price, delivery, set and forget, offering, So yeah, consumer mindset has definitely changed. Like buying something online is not weird now. It's like, can you get it online? Like you should be able to get it online, like most things.
Thinking on that, it's like with what's going on, you sort of hit the nail on the head there. It's like, people don't want to go to the supermarket, just drive to the supermarket to grab a couple of drinks. And I think so that's where that model's sort of working a bit more probably now as well. And are you seeing any more uptake in recent months?
Yeah, we had a very strong January, February. March has taken a hit a little bit. I think just multitude of factors happening. But we are seeing a change in behavior. Like people are looking for healthier products. They're more educated. They're willing to, there's obviously AI stuff that's out there now where there's like a trust factor of like, am I buying from a human or an AI system? Is this product real? Is this person real? So I think you've got to be more diligent in terms of like how you approach it. There's always got to be a human touch. At the end of the day, as great as this AI stuff is, like people still want to buy from you or the person. But yeah, the last few months, also March into April, have been interesting in terms of like how fast things are moving.
Glad it's going really well for you on that sort of front of it. Yeah, the AI thing is interesting, and it's just changing so fast. So it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. So sort of now let's talk about some challenges and stuff that you've had through businesses. There's something in, through your time, what's been the toughest period and sort of how have you got through that?
The toughest period was probably the pre-raise of money, the end of kind of my 8-month savings period. Needed to raise money to get to that next level. Bank wouldn't give me money, had to raise it externally. Didn't know really anyone to talk to in terms of like who to raise from, how to do it. Couldn't really pay lawyers. So it was like, yeah, that was a very tough period. And like lots of people were like, oh, amazing, like really cool business, keen to invest. Get 4 weeks down the track, almost sign the papers. And then they're like, oh, no, it's not for me. And you're like, this wasted like so many hours back and forth coming to like your terms, my terms, like giving you the best offer possible. In saying that now, I've, managed to create a really good network of people and got some great people behind me. So coming out on the other side of that, it's been, really, really cool.
You don't know. It's like one of those typical things, isn't it? Spending all that time to sort of get your pitch right and stuff with someone in the last minute to pull the pin. It's like, man, I could have spent that 4 weeks nailing someone else down. Yeah, okay. So moving with that is like, has there any been like, oh no moments, near disasters or something that you sort of sit back and laugh about now?
Yeah, definitely one that I sit back and laugh about now. Like we got sent a cease and desist from a multinational company. I won't name who, but about some ad that we put up that they were complaining that we weren't comparing like for like, which in my opinion is totally false. They were just gutted that we called them out on their bullshit. And like this was at the time when we were so small. Like this was like year 3 in the business. At the time I was like got it from their lawyer and was like, oh my God, we're buggered. Like what do I do? And it turned out it's kind of just a threat. And you just take the ad down and move on and promise them that you won't do it again. But the funniest part about it was 2 weeks later, I think the lawyer felt bad, so he bought some coffees for his office, which is like the funniest thing ever, seen that order come through. Oh, that was a classic. And then probably just like making product, like muck-ups, like think a product's really good, it's really not. And, you buy inventory and then you realize it's not selling and you're like, oh no. So yeah, that obviously costs a little bit. But yeah, that's I haven't made anything, touch wood, that bad yet.
Did you write a handwritten note to go to the lawyer to say thank you very much for your order?
Yeah, no, should have. Yeah.
He's probably getting free product from the other guys for being their lawyer, and then he thought I better taste this, and he's like, oh man, it's better, but I can't keep buying it under my own name. So he's probably got someone else buying it for me. So talking about on that, let's flip that round. And just, is there any particular moment that you're super proud of that you sort of validated the leap you've made? So you've gone just like, yeah.
I think two trains of thought, like people are like, oh, you shouldn't celebrate raising money, you should celebrate like getting a return on investment. But I think like everyone kind of told me like it's ridiculously hard to raise money in New Zealand for product businesses. For whatever reason, there's this mindset around it as they don't get a good return on the investment. But I think like raising money was a very proud moment, convincing people to hand over money, basically invest in me obviously the product's one, but it's yourself. So that's probably the proudest moments. And then like seeing what I've been able to do with that money and the growth it's been able to help with. And then, if we need to raise money in the future again, like hopefully I've got the trust of these guys, like, yeah, I turned this amount into this, like we're going to do the same again. Like I love, I guess, bucking the trends and going against the social norms. I hate tall poppy syndrome. I think it's like a good thing to stand on your own 2 feet and back yourself. And if anyone's backing themselves, like, good on them, I think.
Yeah, I think you really have done that, backed yourself and just sort of gone with it against the norms, as you say, competing against the big boys with Boss coming in at that same time. It's you sort of getting that moment to go, hey, let's compete against it. And you're right. The big global conglomerates will always do what they can to stamp you out, right? So what's one thing in that whole process that surprised yourself the most, in yourself, not in the business, in yourself, going through any of this process of building to this point in business?
Probably like the skill set that I've developed. I never would have thought that I would have been a great salesperson or marketer, but seems to be my calling in terms of working out how to sell things, like product offerings, product itself. It's what I'm like super passionate about now and love. So that's probably one thing. And then also like reading cash flow forecasts and things. If you told me that at 16, which I was like maths illiterate, like that even makes sense. Yeah, like now I could read a cash flow P&L and be like confident and talking about it. And so those sort of things, like I think you can learn anything if you're passionate about it.
I think you can learn anything if you're sort of passionate about it, because it is that something extra that you've got there. So, your brand, you're passionate about it. I really enjoy what you put up on LinkedIn and on any other social media posts, because you actually do talk about some of these things as well, which is actually quite refreshing because, you are putting it out there. Is there any sort of advice you give to anyone out there that could be in a similar sort of position now, like, side hustle that's starting to do it, thinking about that breakaway to go, right, let's just put my money where my mouth is, crank into this, get it going? What's some advice you'd give to someone in that position?
There's some people that quit their job straight away and they don't even have product market fit. And there's other people that do what I did. So I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it. It's whatever you're comfortable with in terms of your risk appetite. And if it's a product business, it'll cost way more money than you think. I think, yeah, like people say, everyone would have heard it, cash flow is king. And what does that actually mean? It's like cash is king. Like it means that you need cash in your bank account to buy new stock, and then you need to turn that stock into cash as quick as possible and make sure that you have, enough money to then pay your bills. And so that's been one learning curve for me, is like, okay, like I've got, $70,000 worth of stock sitting in an inventory. Like how quick can I turn that into 140 or more? It's definitely a fine art, and I haven't perfected it yet. And I don't think even the big guys are that good at it. That's why they're they've got these rolling overdrafts with the banks. Yeah, that would be my first bit of advice, like working out what you are comfortable with, like your risk appetite, and then, yes, assessing your situation. Like if you've got, enough money in the business to pay yourself straight away, then by all means do it. But I think, yeah, just really assessing your own situation would be kind of one part that I would take away from it. Like I would have loved to quit my job 5 years ago and just do it, but I don't think I would be in the same position.
Yeah, you talk a bit there about numbers, which I guess, other people talk about as well. Knowing your numbers is key. So with that, is there any numbers or sort of signals that sort of someone should make sure they have in place before they do it? Or do you think it's just however you feel about it yourself, knowing that you're confident in what you're doing is the key?
If you're making a product for $2 and selling it for $2, then you're an idiot. You need to know how much profit's in that, and then what does it actually cost per product? Like say, something costs you $5 to make, you sell it for 10. Out of that, obviously the product costs you 5, so you got 5 left. It's like out of that $5 that left, can you pay yourself? Can you pay rent? Can you pay your accountant? Can you, like, all the things that come out of that? And if you can't, then you don't really have a business that, viable, unless you can pull out some of those costs and not pay that anymore. So that's probably what I mean when I say knowing your numbers. Like they talk about the ideal margin, like 60% or 80% or 100%. Like each category I think is different. Like I know clothing's like 150% or something, but they have so much money tied up in inventory because you need smalls up to 3XLs and different colors and styles. So like it's a different business again, whereas mine is like 3 flavors. They toss this, I sell them for this. And obviously there's blended margins in there with supermarkets, and then we sell for more online. So it's, what is your blended margin? Yeah, there's a multitude of factors I could go on about, but like obviously in the supermarket, you're not paying to acquire a customer. They're sending you an invoice and basically they're doing the marketing for you and you're pushing people to those stores. Whereas online, like how much does it cost you to acquire that customer? It might cost you $30, it might cost you $60. Okay, like if you're selling it for $60, that first order is not really that profitable. So like, what is the lifetime value of that customer? It's a big game, but I'm obsessed with it. So
you can actually tell. You can tell it, but you enjoy it. You can see it. You know, when you're talking about it, actually sort of you light up, mate. It's quite interesting, especially when you sort of referred back to there how when you were 16, you were sort of, you know, didn't care about math. So is there any common traps, you know, that you'd warn people to avoid when they're sort of making that transition from, you know, the side hustle to full time? Is there anything that you can think of that stuck out as a like, shouldn't have done that?
If it sounds too good, it probably is. Yeah, there's no way we would have been able to supply, sorry, I should say, like a Woolworths back when I just got my job. Like we wouldn't have even be able to make the product that is required. So like if they came knocking, like, we want your product, it's like, cool, how many stores are we in? 1,000. Oh, that's great. It's a $500,000 PO. And it's like, well, we've only got 20 grand worth of stock. Like, how are we going to make that much product? So I think it's just, like taking it one step at a time. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Some people raise a shit ton of money and they have the money to spend. You just get there a lot quicker than the people that probably did it my way and, you know, grassroots up to where we are now. I think go at your own speed.
I think you're right there, because going at your own speed and talking about it, how, you know, someone, if they made a pile of money, could move up to that. I guess that in yourself has built resilience into it as well. You know, so you are sort of resilience in it. You're sort of building, understanding it, going through step to step to step. If you could go back, give one piece of advice to side hustle Ollie, what would it be?
Keep going. Yeah, brilliant. Like obviously, like, yeah, if you've got it, you know, you need to look at it and maybe be like, is your product shit if no one's buying it? Like, have you tried everything to sell it and no one's buying it? And don't take feedback from your mum. Like, take feedback from people that have no idea who you are and are willing to sort of tell you the truth. And, you know, maybe if the product's not selling and you've tried everything, then you need to relook at it. Like I said, we made terrible products over the years that I thought were, you know, pretty good, but just weren't for the kind of mainstream market. And then, yeah, like if it is good and you are getting that feedback, just keep going, keep showing up, keep like moving the needle 1% at a time, because it does compound.
So what's one small practical step someone could take with their side hustle this month to help push the needle up?
I don't know the exact situation that you're in, but probably my one piece of advice that I've kind of shamelessly done over the last few years has just been like message people that inspire you and be like, hey mate, can I shake your lunch and pick your brain for 20 minutes? Smart people, successful people are pretty open if you approach it in the right way, I've found. Yeah, like I've had coffee with some very successful people and you always come away, like, even if you don't remember every piece of advice, but you always come away, I guess, feeling better about your situation. And then also, you know, a bit more chipper, I feel. So yeah, just like shamelessly message them on LinkedIn or Instagram and be like, hey, yeah, following you, admire what you've done, and started this company. Like, people message me and I'm not even, in my eyes, that successful yet. So yeah, I'd be more than willing to kind of share some advice if people ask it. But I'd say that's like a really, really good one. But do kind of cap it. Like, don't go to everyone, and because you'll get 15 to 20 different pieces of advice. I think people that have walked your shoes before is like real valuable. You know, if you're starting a product business, maybe don't go message a guy that's raised $10 million in a tech company and so just think about it like that.
So I guess a lot of people will be afraid to do that. You know, you earlier said about tall poppy syndrome, and I guess that's the opposite of it. And people don't actually realize that, you know, New Zealanders are pretty open and welcoming. And I find the community that we live in, and everybody is willing to share that information, you know, sort of like as mentors, but not even in a mentoring state. Like, you know, if you just catch up with someone, it's like, you know, oh, if you got that elevator pitch ready, if you run into XYZ, you know, you find that a lot of New Zealanders are just actually approachable, and you just go, oh, hey, man, you know, I've been looking at this, and they're just like, yeah, sweet. You know, as you say, grab a coffee. I'll grab a coffee with you next time you're here, or buy me lunch. I'm happy for you that, you know. I think it's quite interesting that, and people don't actually realize that. And, you know, you just said then that you're happy to talk to people, you know, and a lot of people probably think, man, that guy's doing so well. It'd be so hard to approach him because, you know, they put you on that pedestal. And I think that is part of that tall poppy syndrome we have here. So it's interesting that you sort of just said that, you know, it's sort of like opposite to what you sort of feel it is, which is quite cool. At the moment, is there anything new and exciting coming up? Or can we sort of like, you know, you don't want to rip that tab off that can yet. You just keep that in behind yourself, or how do you want to, you know, or open up that pouch?
Rolling out to BP in a couple of weeks, which will be cool. It's kind of our first step into a national rollout, which is awesome. That's New Zealand wide. And then, yeah, like the big focus this year is to kind of make some inroads in Aussie and really nail a very sales-driven distributor over there, and then hopefully crack one of the big guys. We don't want to be national over there. We're not ready for that yet. But in terms of, taking it one step at a time, grow the Australian market, like it's a massive country. I know we think they're just our neighbours, but New South Wales has like 5 million people. So you can have a pretty successful business in Queensland and New South Wales without even touching the rest of the states. And then on top of that, like always kind of scheming new products. So yeah, just trying to expand both markets and then stick true to our ethos of, helping people get healthier, better for you products into their daily lives, really.
Yeah, pretty exciting times ahead, with BP and everything like that coming on board. And you're right, that focus on Australia, big extra market. Is there any other countries that you sort of look at or not yet?
Oh, I don't look at them. Like we get messages, you never really know if they're legit. But we've had a few meetings with people that want to take us to like Singapore or South Korea and then America. Like I've had a few meetings with like a person from America. But I think, one thing I've learned is like staying focused. It sounds kind of big and shiny, and then you realize how much work's needed. Like especially for those non-English speaking countries, like it's a lot of work. Like it's relabeling, it's setting up distribution licenses, it's kind of all that fun stuff that one really likes to do. So in terms of like our focus, no, I haven't. I've kind of put all that stuff on hold. I think the big shiny one is obviously America. I'd love to be selling my product there, and I do think it would go quite well, but it's cost so much money, and we don't really have the time or resources at the moment to be focused on that.
Yeah, you're right. And you sort of did mention it before about, getting 1,000 stores somewhere. It's like that volume, that $500,000 PO. You are looking at that massive volume if you're looking at the States or even, Korea, Japan, Singapore. It's massive chains of supermarkets or retailers that huge comparative to what we do here. And you're right, again, you said in Australia, 5 million people in each sort of state, whereas, same as what we've got here. So, all right, let's start closing this out now. But so speaking on that, what does success look like for you over the next couple of years? You sort of mentioned, the growth in Australia. Is that sort of where it is? I think we sort of probably touched on it. Be that next step, I think, will be US and yada, yada. But is that what it looks like? Have you got a roadmap for that? I guess you might want to keep that close to your chest, but is there something in place? Or
like everyone who's invested in me knows that, I want to sell the business at some point. So that would be like an exit strategy. Like without going too much into detail, we've definitely got like an exit strategy and a kind of number in mind. But I think that's like 3 to 4 years off at least. That would be kind of one. But I think just have like just leave like a positive kind of feel or kind of taste in people's mouths, like buying from us was a nice feeling. The product did what it said. We fulfilled the customer's needs and they're willing to come back. Like having a bunch of kind of loyal customers, I think, really respect what you've done, and then the products that you make is like always what we strive for. Sometimes we don't always get there by, no fault of our own, or it's just the luck of the draw with some stuff. Taste is subjective, so you're not always going to like what you produce. But I think if you're always putting that out in the universe and kind of striving for that, then people see that.
People's taste is subjective with that, with the flavors and stuff. So, and I think you do have that loyal following. So I'm definitely keen to continue watching your journey as you grow. It's been really interesting so far. Again, I guess, we've sort of become friends over the last few years, since you won the pouch competition, because you're a Revo customer as well. So I'm actually going to put you on the spot and say why you're a Revo customer. Yes, I know you won the pouch competition, but you keep coming back, so we must be doing something right.
It's nice dealing with Kiwis for one, and just good service. Pouches are quality, easy to obviously scale is probably not where we both want it to be right now, but willing to work with kind of smaller suppliers, and then we could probably go as big as possible. Ease of use and product and service is probably the top 3.
So if people want to follow your journey, support what you're building at Innerbloom, where's the best place to find you, mate?
Probably, Instagram would be the easiest place. Drink Innerbloom on Instagram. And then, I'm on LinkedIn, just my name, Ollie Puddock, and then, yes, Instagram as well.